out on, I just realized, Grammy night. Am I right? We're competing with the Grammys. No pressure, friends. No pressure at all. For those of you watching at home or in the future, welcome. We live stream now each time, and we are recording, I guess, an entire encyclopedia of true story at this point that we're working on editing so we can get it online and have our website a hub of stories. Yay. True stories from our amazing artists. Tonight's theme is Groundhog Day. It seemed pretty obvious to me when I picked the date. And I was like, what are people going to lose? You know, like, how many people are going to talk about losing their keys or doing the same repeat patterns? I got to tell you, the meeting that we had, the work sessions that we had where we shared ideas, it ranged so far and so wide that I am delighted and just thrilled about how everything came together for tonight. So I'm not going to talk much. I'm just going to encourage you to donate when you can. You can do so on our website. This program runs on donations. So every little thing is appreciated, and thank you. We have one writer who has not done storytelling before or true story, Anthony Garcia. No, I'm gonna, aside from just welcoming him, I want to say thank you for being brave and trusting me. I'm honored by that. So thank you. That's it. Everybody's amazing. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to say, hey, Jackie Castañeda, want to tell us a story? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you all for coming and joining us. Is this thing good, right, or not? Right, Lizzie? I think so. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Because I'm like super short. That's why I asked. Okay. Do you ever feel like it's all too much sometimes? Like every day is exactly the same, yet also getting incrementally worse. Pictured here is me during breakfast scrolling through Reddit. Mornings are supposed to set the tone of the day. I've been trying to set my mornings with intention. Really, I have. I've been trying to turn routine into ritual, find intention behind every moment, like they say in meditation. Alarm goes off. On a good day, 7 a.m. On an okay day, 10 a.m. I make my bed. Fuzzy cover over fitted sheet, then duvet, then the pillows with those needlepoint covers my mom gave me that were passed down from her older sister. 2 more pillows, a stuffed animal or 2, and a throw cover. All under 5 minutes. Check. Next, meditation. I scroll for my favorite meditation playlist, laptop volume halfway since these walls are thin, and somewhere along the playlist there's gongs and chimes galore. I light my sage, smudge my palo santo. I light a candle before my altar. I set up my crystals. They bring me good vibes and are also pretty to look at. They almost glow against the constant candle flicker. I scan my energy centers. Lately, I can't make it past the heart chakra without crying. I meditate some more, manifest some more. I blow out the candle. Check. All under 30 minutes. Yoga mat unrolls. There's a kink in my shoulder from the night before. I haven't slept well in a week. I hook up my Bluetooth speaker to my phone, open up my YouTube to my favorite restorative yoga instructor. Her name is Bird. She's an indigenous Alaskan yogi who has a dog that joins her from time to time. Her voice is soothing. Today, a 15-minute yoga routine for sore muscles. I shavasana to oblivion, but my phone's Instagram notifications go off. I swat the notification away as I finish a child's pose. Check. All under 10 minutes. Smoke break. Oh, okay. Now my day has started. Oh, no anxiety, no stress. Just me and my weed pen. Yeah. I made a promise to myself to feel less like a piece of shit when I don't immediately wake and bake. It makes me feel less of an addict. I have weeks where I give it a break, but lately it's been hard raw dogging it in society day by day. I salute you sober people, because damn, oh God, this is in no way condoning addiction, okay? But it's just me saying we've all got our vice, our thing we kept hidden beneath closed doors or not. I mean, some people do drugs, but others wait in line for sneaker drops. Others do drive-through Starbucks. Others have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, but back to my routine. Yeah. Depending on the agenda of the day, I'll either whip up an elaborate breakfast or something that takes zero effort. Depends how effective the yoga was and the weed. On occasion, I'll read a play over breakfast and a cup of coffee. But most of the time, I look at my reflection on the black mirror, propped up playing the latest YouTube foodie reel. I'm mid-bite a chorizo burrito when I catch my reflection. There's some shame in my eyes, but at least I didn't look away. My hair's up in a bun like I really don't give a fuck, and I'm wearing lavender cotton PJ pants with matching shirt that says, "Oh, stay happy." I'm just trying to stay alive. Well, I could very easily put my phone down. My curiosity wins most of the time, and I'll begin my routine. This phone is a portal to the information highway, but I'm looking at memes instead of getting my life together. Some levity in all of this heaviness that swirls around. I forget that everything is good in moderation. We all need that form of escape before facing the reality of the day. I think that's something we can all relate to. How addicted we are to escapism in some way or another. I learned a new word recently while surfing the never-ending internet. Oleka. The awareness of how few days are memorable. How did another day go by so fast? Time and attention that can be used to create a fond memory now stolen by outside forces. If time is money, why can't time also be joy? Our joy has been stolen. How do we wake each other up from our own living dreams? Or better yet, why does reality sometimes feel like a nightmare? A nightmare to those whose joy is most easily taken. Time is a thief. One of my best friend's favorite sayings. Nikki and I tend to discuss deep shit over Instagram voice memos. We often talk about our fear of time passing us by, of trying to live lives with intention. Time is a thief. Sadly, she used that adage in reference to not being able to enjoy her late mother. The regret was coded in sweet nostalgia in her voice, and she reflected on time spent with her dearly departed mother. She validated the memories that she was able to keep. The voice memo continued as Nikki recounted her Groundhog Day. This time, some pesky passport business to attend to before a big trip. We keep each other posted on our day-to-day activities to keep us grounded, especially if the headlines of the day glare too menacingly from our phone screens. She and I remind each other that while time is fleeting, we must make the most of it with the people who mean the most to us. Her voice greets me warmly as I sip my coffee. I miss my meatball so much. How about we do another museum date? Wandering new and old places helps me clear my head when it all becomes too much. She knows that, and it most definitely it helps her too, obviously. Doesn't matter where I find myself and who I find myself with. My wandering heart fills up knowing that even on my shittiest day, the world still turns around. I could be depressed as fuck. Day 12 in the sad fields, but the guy selling me noodles at Grand Central Market doesn't mind. No. He knows those drunken noodles could cure any blue foodie wandering the streets of LA. That pic is Nikki being goofy at her favorite art gallery. She is a hoot and a half. And this one is from the last bookstore's second floor art gallery. It says, "Will the disappointment never end? And we hate it here, but we stay." We probably chuckled and went, same. And this one is from Free Museum Day at the MoCA. And there are galleries on my phone from different parts of LA that we've been to. That we even hit up the Natural Science Museum and Venice Beach on the Metro. It's amazing. It really is. These are pictures that will never leave my cloud. As cheesy as it sounds, it's because they recall the times where I've been on cloud 9, not burrowing hidden underground. These simple moments, week after week, collected into a beautiful thread of memories. This love letter to my best friend is a reminder to us all to treat ourselves like we would our best friend. While it's nice to burrow into the comforts of monotony, we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't remind each other of how alive we are. Time may be a thief, but time can never steal our joy. No one can. It's time to go out there and get yourself out of this Groundhog Day. Even groundhogs have to come up for air. Thank you. Yeah.
Devora.
Hello. Okay. My mom had 2 children, 2 deaths, and 2 funerals. The 2 children is true. The 2 funerals is true. The 2 deaths is a bit of a misnomer. For me, she has had many deaths. One of them happened the day my first child was born. At the time, I couldn't explain what was happening. All I knew was that my mom had just died again. Except she really didn't. In reality, she had died about 3.5 years before this. So what was happening? I couldn't figure it out. At the time, I thought it had to do something with postpartum depression, but it didn't. I thought I was having a mental breakdown, but I wasn't. Soon after, I found my answer in a book I read called Motherless Daughters, where I found out that other women had the same experience as I did. The author, Hope Edelman, interviewed countless number of women whose mothers had passed away while they were in their early childhood years up to and including young adulthood, which is when I lost my mother at 22. The book explains that childbirth, particularly with the first child, commonly triggers a new cycle of mourning for the lost mother, involving intense feelings of grief, sadness, anger, or despair. And the woman mourns not only the loss of her mother's advice and support, but also the loss of a grandmother for her child. The whole experience really goes a lot deeper than this, but I'll just leave it at that. Another time that my mother died was when my father died. The Motherless Daughters book mentions a sense of repeated mourning happening at milestone events in the woman's life. And this definitely was another milestone event, even though she had passed away about 28.5 years prior to this event. Unlike with my pregnancy, where the mourning began right away at birth, the mourning for my mother in this instance, when my father died, happened months later, when my parents' things in their house were being cleaned out. Before that, I didn't have any of my mother's belongings. For 28 years, nothing. My dad's death was the release point. I drove home with some of my mother's things in my car, got home and began going through the bags and boxes. That's when I broke down. I couldn't bear it. So I packed everything back up again and set it aside for another day. That another day comes and goes over the years instead of all at once. The day, the time, the season, the weather, these are the elements that represent Groundhog's Day. And of course, the groundhog itself. This observance is represented every year on the same day at the same time and season. In the case of my mother's recurrent death, the day, time, and season is usually random. And I never know when it will show up, except in certain circumstances. I can guarantee that there will be a Mother's Day on the calendar every year. And until recent years, I could guarantee that someone would ask me, what are you going to get your mom for Mother's Day? These questions became less frequent as time went on. And that's not because I've gotten older, but more because the people getting older around me are increasingly losing their mothers. However, in the beginning years after my mother's death, I felt like a broken record around every Mother's Day when I had to look at those other young girls and tell them that my mother had died as an answer to their question. And at that point, I stopped. I never went past that statement with anyone. There was never an explanation of why my mother died or anything more. And I never reciprocated the question by asking them what they were getting their mother for Mother's Day. To me, the conversation was either over or it was time to talk about something else. But I never got mad because I knew they didn't know. And also I knew they couldn't for a second fathom what I was going through or feeling. I was alone in this. I knew that. So I was okay with it because through my experience at such a young age, I was aware that everyone's mom around me was still alive. But the grieving feeling of going through that question and answer year after year was just horribly excruciating. Not to mention that my mother died in the same month that we celebrate Mother's Day. My dad never remarried, so I never had a stepmom. Fortunately, a couple of my mom's good friends stepped in as mother figures for me and my brother, which I thought was great. One of them has since passed away. She was the one that my brother used to call mom after our biological mom died. Being a motherless daughter is hard for me to talk about because the experience of it runs deep, much deeper than can be conveyed in this platform, especially since I've lived for more years without my mother than I have lived with her. And I have lived longer than she was able to live, which comes with its own set of experiences. That being said, this is the first time I've talked about it out loud publicly, so this is good. But if you see me and I'm a complete mess, just know that I may be in mourning because my mom may have just died again.
Anthony.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. Wow, it's really a privilege to be here tonight. I see some familiar faces in the crowd. Leilani, Lizzie, my girlfriend's here. Someone I went to high school with that I wasn't such good friends with, but thank you so much for being here tonight. It means a lot to me. Yeah, without further ado, Lizzie, if you'd please, I'd like to welcome you all to an academic discussion on the 1993 film Groundhog Day. Next slide, please. So in the interest of being truthful, I've never actually seen Groundhog Day, but I did spend a semester in film school, and it taught me two things: that it is very normal to develop a parasocial relationship with art you don't understand, and that a few Google searches basically equate to a degree in the field. Yeah, I actually tried to watch it before tonight, but It isn't available on any of the streaming services that I have. The best I could do is find a $4 rental on YouTube Movies, but I work full-time as an actor. So Wikipedia is free, and everybody knows the movie, I think, right? Yes, Bill Murray. He plays a cynical weatherman who gets stuck reliving the same day over and over again. And I guess it's supposed to be funny. I was confused, though, online. I saw a lot of people calling it a romance. Some were calling it a sci-fi. Personally, I think it sounds like a horror movie. But Wikipedia refers to it as a classic American comedy. Have you guys ever read a Wikipedia article? I get really, really sucked into them sometimes. You know, I learned that the movie actually made Groundhog Day a culturally significant holiday. Believe that. And before that, it was just a small town thing, you know. But now, every year, hundreds of thousands of people, that's not true. But they go to Pennsylvania to see a glorified rat predict solstice or something. And I also read that the writer, he received handwritten letters from psychiatrists and religious leaders about the spiritual nature of the story. I guess the movie had a pretty big impact in the academic community as well. There's a sequence, it's sort of in the middle, that I found online. Bill Murray, he's been stuck in the loop for a while now, and he decides to kill himself. But he can't die, so he does it again and again. And in the comments of this video, people were talking about this idea of quantum immortality, and it really stuck with me. So for context, there's this Swedish physicist named Max Tegmark who coined the term in a thought experiment. It was a couple of years after the movie came out, and it's basically a Marvel multiverse situation, but the general idea is that a person is incapable of dying because of their subjective perception of their own reality. For example, if you were close to death, you would somehow narrowly escape that situation, except in the universes where you didn't. But you would know about them because you continue to exist in a universe where you did. The whole thing's really divisive, okay? Some people talked about their own experiences of being near death and feeling as though they had actually died and were now living in a parallel universe. There's a lot of references to the Mandela effect, how that might, support that theory. But for the most part, people seem to think it's bullshit. To quote one person in particular, no theoretical physicist takes it seriously. It is a gibberish pseudoscience, as is almost everything you read about quantum physics. Source, am a theoretical physicist. That's how he phrased it. And when I read that, I felt like I had to take his word for it because he's an alleged, professional in his field. But I looked into more of his research, and I found a post where he asked why Wario from the Mario Brothers was circumcised. So really made me doubt his opinion. And to date, there is zero empirical evidence to support the theory. Next slide, please. So somewhere in the 12th consecutive hour of staring at your phone, you realize that maybe the philosophical musings of other people who are chronically online may be an unhealthy sounding board. There's an all too familiar sensation, a brief moment of clarity, and for just a few seconds, a semblance of your spirit will shine through. And just as quickly, it'll escape you. You see, living with an untreated mental illness is a lot like the movie Groundhog Day. No, really. You see, it's all about the cycle. You wake up a cynic in the same stupid body to the same stupid face. You will wonder when you last ate a sufficient meal, and then more importantly, the last time you got high. You'll process the regret of another wasted day and then compound it with those of your other iterations. You'll acknowledge how many versions of you have passed since you were last medicated, and then remember the version of you that had to stop because, well, no well-adjusted person accidentally swallows 4,400 milligrams of any drug. And that's a scientific fact. No well-adjusted person spends this much time researching something they don't believe in. I mean, an entire experiment meant to explain away death because man is so afraid of his own mortality. It's the problem with the scientific community, I think, the feverish desire to define processes and assign meaning to everything, even death. I mean, what the fuck do I care? I wouldn't waste a second trying to figure it out myself, but I will waste a lifetime criticizing it. I don't know why. I'm just angry, I think, at life, at the world, and I can't seem to say that out loud because I'm so stuck in all of my own angry thoughts. So instead of learning anything and breaking the cycle, I just seem like a pessimistic asshole all the time, like the real Bill Murray. And just like him, people think I'm an asshole or a narcissist because I never seem to care about anybody but myself. But really, I'm just thinking about all the ways that I'd kill myself if I were in his shoes. So asshole seems fair, but narcissist seems a little off base because, I mean, how can you be a narcissist and expect the world to revolve around you when you don't really give a shit about the world to begin with? God, I don't know what day it is. I'm sad. I'm tired. I still haven't eaten anything. I'm sick and I'm afraid to go outside. I crave validation, but I'm afraid to be loved. I'm a creature of habit. I exist in cycles, for better or for worse. And I spent the better part of my early 20s hating myself for being, and the rest of it being a self that I hate. Some days I look around in the world, it seems unfamiliar. Faces, they blur together, voices grow distant. Anything that was is no more, and any sense of longing for it feels feigned. And being dreary exacerbates my thoughts in ways I never imagined. Well, anyway, you might find this hard to believe, but I'm actually doing a lot better. Yeah, I found a new therapist, and we've talked a lot about accountability and wellness practices, building structure, stuff like that. I'll admit that a lot of it goes in one ear and out the other, but in our last session, she suggested that I buy a day planner. And yeah, she said that next week we'll sit down and just write out a routine for a couple of my days, to help me stay focused and break up the cycle of wasted time. So I went to Rite Aid on the way home, and I bought one because if 3 therapists give you the same advice, you feel inclined to take it. And in the honor of holding myself accountable, I brought it with me today. I think you guys will like it. It's got this cute little Hallmark sentiment on the front of it. It says, today is a new beginning, 2023 to 2024. Well, that's funny. Thank you.
Welcome. Next up, Gordon.
My mom was sweethearted and seemed somehow innocent. I always felt like I needed to protect her from the ugliness of my true personality. No one besides my friend should ever have to see my garish true colors, especially my mom. But she was also fierce and could not be distracted from her deeply held convictions. My mom had standards, and there was no way I would ever live up to them. The degree that I let her down can actually be quantified. She kept a permanent record of my behavior from birth through the 12th grade, in an envelope, in a filing cabinet. Disappointing? I may have been, but she loved me anyway. She loved us all, my siblings, my cousins, and my friends. She even loved Broheen, my friend whose very name is a scandal, a name which so few can properly pronounce or spell. I met Broheen at school, and we quickly became like siblings. The first time he came over, he fixed a hole in the wall that my dog had made, apparently because there was a sound in it which she did not like. After he had fixed the hole, my mother wondered aloud why I wasn't more like Broheen. True, he was and is a guy who can fix things, but she wasn't around when he was hurling insults, which was most of the time. When I was 15, I hurt my knee playing soccer on a gym floor. Before the soccer mishap was the first time I ever got intoxicated from drinking an intoxicated beverage. Hard cider. My friend, another brother friend, Toad Ray, and I drank the cider and got even louder and more silly than usual, to the great amusement of his mother, who didn't mind teenagers. My mother didn't so much mind teenagers as despair over them, and privately hoped that they would someday somehow become functioning members of society. When I went home that night with my knee in pain and misshapen, it was my mom who looked after me. The next day, she took me to the doctor where I got x-rays and a grim prognosis. 6 weeks in a brace on crutches. It was spring. The sun was out. The birds were chirping. My friends were out. I was inside with my leg in a brace. When at last the brace was removed, it was my mom who provided the discipline needed to do the physical therapy exercises that would help the knee heal properly. When Toad Ray went off to boarding school, I wanted to go too. My mom made that possible. We went door to door lobbying for a county levy to pass so that my mom would have a job to pay for my tuition. What happened next has never stopped happening in my mind. The boarding school experience was stupefying, and with that stupefaction comes a little shame and embarrassment. I was out of my element at a religious boarding school, and my interest in intoxicants only blossomed. At the end of the school year, I was asked not to return. But something wonderful had happened. I had declared myself an artist. I now had the tools, or was learning the tools, to express myself, even my innermost ugly feelings, especially my innermost ugly feelings. My mom wasn't prepared for the person who came back from boarding school. She didn't understand and kind of never got over it. I went back to public school where I failed to thrive. Things between my mom and me were murky during that time. In fact, most of my relationships were murky. I was spending my days in a daze. My dad had a drawer in the bureau, the dad drawer. It had tools and so on in it. I only cared because I wasn't allowed to look in it. Only once, when no one was around, I poked around in the drawer and in my parents' closet. My dad had bullets and a gun, among other weird dad stuff, old boots filled with rocks, and a lampshade with lascivious inscriptions on it. It was not a nice place to spend time, which is why I was there. I saw against the wall something I was not supposed to see. It was a collection of records by the Velvet Underground. I knew it was for me. My parents weren't fans. I also knew that my mom would have had to go out of her way to get these things. I ran from the closet, stunned. I felt like a jerk, but only because I was kind of a jerk. My mom met some trench coat and pointy glasses wearing record dealers at the mall and arranged a secret meeting with them because they had records by the Velvet Underground and Captain Beefheart. She correctly estimated that this might be a way to reach her son, who was in a stupor. Thank you, Mom. I still have those records. What I don't have is my mom. She left this earthly plane on December 21st. She spent her last 2 years in an elder facility in the Bay Area called the Wonder Years. I visited when I could, about once a month. It was never enough. I stayed in her empty apartment. She loved the apartment. I would say that the 20 or so years she lived in there were some of the happiest years of her life. Her kids were grown. My dad was gone. She had grandchildren nearby and a community in the building where she lived. When she had to leave the apartment for health reasons, she desperately wanted to go back. Her neighbors also wanted her back, but it was obvious that that wasn't going to happen. For a week every month, I lived in my mom's world without her. And what a world it was. My dad's cremains were in a box, first in the closet, then on the bureau. The salt and pepper shakers and the pans I remembered from childhood were in the kitchen, mostly unused, until Bro Heen and I put them to use. Everything was the way she wanted it. Even the dad drawer was intact, complete with bullets, watches, a gnarly hunting knife, and a well-worn Bible belonging to my father's grandfather, a man of the cloth. I didn't know that until I poked around. Dad himself was not religious. The drawer was the same as it was 40 years ago when he was alive. Why did my mom maintain the dad drawer in her mid-century lady's apartment? We can't know. That's her business. My mom had many mysteries. Perhaps the most troubling discovery in the apartment, aside from my dad's stamp collection from the 60s, was my permanent record, a binder 4 or 5 inches thick, containing every bad thing ever written about me by a teacher, administrator, psychiatrist, doctor, or other trusted authority. Reading through it kind of made my skin crawl. I was not a model student. I was not any kind of student, and I have the report cards to prove it. Among the many memorable entries in my permanent record is a preschool application written by my mom. Here's an example. I judge Gordy to be a rather aggressive child who goes after what he wants. He, quote, gets into things, unquote, and has to be handled fairly firmly at times. He understands restrictions such as not playing in the front yard. I was 3. I might never have become a functioning member of society to my mom's satisfaction, but we worked it out. She came along on our family vacations. And then when she could no longer travel, we talked on the phone nearly every day. She even kind of liked my artwork and had a collection of it displayed on her wall, including a drawing of a dinosaur taking my dad away, while my mom stands by, wringing her hands and looking to us. She was saying goodbye to him, and now we're saying goodbye to her. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I might say one thing. Vera, Ollie, and I made calendars, and it's Groundhog Day, so calendar season is ending. If you want one, come over and we'll give you one. Thank you.
Thank you. And this too. Fridays are toughest. Fatigue feels different. Not sure why. By 6:30 p.m., feels like I'm falling out of my body. It's not an exaggeration. It's like I'm gonna die. First time I felt that. Head heavy. Use a hand to keep it steady. On cheek works best. I lean into it and pay attention. I try to. In a meeting full of veterans, it's what I do on Fridays. Joy. Closest I've come is my children and these veterans. Started in my stomach. Trust your gut. Right now, mine feels like it's been soaked in Bacardi 151, then set on fire. Caffeine's an arsonist. Processed food, a Unabomber. Gastrointestinal eruption, an acid bath. Like someone stuffed every intestine inside a beaker on a Bunsen burner, lit it, then watched its contents explode. Feels like I'm trapped inside of a horror movie. If I close my eyes, that's it. Won't wake up. Killer's form, boiling belly, scorches stomach lining, burns for weeks if I fall asleep. Doctor's visits net next to nothing. Bit of relief. Omeprazole, then pantoprazole. Changes boiling point. Allows me to eat. Barely. Broccoli becomes a sustenance savior. That and tom yum soup. I don't know why. Must be the lemongrass. After each minuscule meal, I've got to sit up, back against headboard, watch my fiance sleep. Some pinched nerve in my neck. It tingles like a tongue on my body's battery. It numbs. It's neuropathy. I got a letter in the mail a few weeks ago. Said to report to hematology for diagnosis and treatment. I put off the appointment. What show to do? Marathon, too. Shows about deadly gangs. Not the kind minds are programmed to think of. Kind that pollute black and brown neighborhoods. Poison bodies. Poison our world. Takes kids' breath away. I can't help but think of my time in the military. I'm stationed at a nuclear base, breathing jet fuel all day. Could Uncle Sam be a deadly gang? Hell, who am I fooling? I knew as much when I raised my hand. I took that oath, same one that governs me today. I can't shake the thought. How big of a sacrifice did I make? Altered quality of life? Degree? Unknown. I'm not rushing into that appointment. Not until after this marathon. Saturday, October 5th, 2024. Bib pickup. 26.2 miles tomorrow. I'm not up for it. I'm disoriented, and something's wrong. I'm sluggish, I'm congested. If cells could cry, mine are. It's as if unknown allergens entered my body. Ground's elevation changes with each step, and I'm off balance. I hold the bed to stand. Bib pickup starts in an hour. Force myself forward. Mind makes a list. Drive to Long Beach, get bib, get home, shakeout run, at least 3 miles. Thai massage, medium pressure, light was all I could stand. Ice bath, then bed. Marathon morning. Jumped up 3 times waiting for my alarm to go off. Plan is to meet up with a veteran running his first 26.2 mile. Wasn't for him, I wouldn't get up. Headaches like a balloon must feel right before it pops. It pulsates. I throw on my uniform, and I hop in the car. I drive to meet him. He's anxious. It's not me, it's him. And I drive to Long Beach. It brings me relief. 3 veterans, all from the domiciliary. That's a treatment place. Handles all kinds of pain. PTSD, homelessness, substances, or just plain healing. Most of us need that. I graduated from there in 2019. I keep going back. I don't want to forget. My pain was homelessness, PTSD, and the need for healing. Hanging with them means too much to tell them how I feel. Like I'm going to drop somewhere in the race, and that it might be my last. I look at the flag during the anthem, and it's wilted. I wish it wasn't. I stand tall anyway. Hand over my heart, waiting for the start. The first 12 goes well. The last half, yeah, not the usual wall, more like gliding backwards on a treadmill, wall after wall after wall. No pain, just heaviness. Legs, arms. I have to walk and run to get it done. Diagnosis day, October 7th. Hematology. I've never seen this side of the hospital. Never had an appointment on the 4th floor. It's down a dark corridor. I'm not saying that for a fact. It's the way it is. It's a long walk down it, too. I'm waiting too long, and fear settles. Name's not called. I get up to check. Not yet. I study the room. It's packed, full of veterans, various ages, varying degrees of health, conditions, all serious. Sign on the outside of the door comes to mind. Hematology. And I wish it were just that. And it's not. There's an accompanying word. Oncology. It comes after a slash. Nurse taking vitals reads my concern, looks at my chart, reviews my blood work. Your white blood cells are just high, she says. Just that, I reply. Scans her computer, never sounds an internal alarm. Guides me back to waiting. I have two options: with everyone else or in a dark room with a phone on the wall. And I opt for the dark room with the phone on the wall. And I wait. I try meditating. Stillness doesn't come easy. Not today. I pop up and walk to check in at the window. And I ask again, has my name been called? No answer. I spot a veteran having his vitals taken. There's someone I know. I'm close to him. Air Force brother. Couldn't walk when I met him. I watched him grow. Closest thing to a miracle I've seen. Seeing John relaxes me. The doctor arrives seconds later. He's got the long white coat. He's tall. He's not normal tall. He's tall. Maybe 6'7". Ever meet someone you know you've met before? This was like that. Now I walk with him around the corner, and John walks the opposite way and meets us in the middle, face to face. And I look him in the eyes, and he watches me go inside. You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Now, everything else I say is going to be very scary. I nod. Not enough time to brace myself. I lean forward. CML. It's all Dr. Dean says. Never utters cancer. Doesn't say leukemia. 3 letters. CML. Chronic myeloid leukemia. I learned what it stands for later. Not just from any website. LLS.org. It's given when Dr. Dean diagnoses me. Best prognosis comes from them. Doctor sits with me a while. One of three great kindnesses in my life. First two came 7 years ago, each when someone gave me food when hungry. Once on the streets when I was homeless. Other when incarcerated in Twin Towers Correctional Facility. Dr. Dean's kindness is silence. An unspoken guarantee. Medicine, food to a dying man. Years of research timed to give me hope today. Chances of survival jumped 20%, went to 50. Now it's 90 the first 5 years, if my body responds. He takes me to a therapist after the diagnosis. I sit there. Strange, unspoken truth about women in positions like hers. Feels like they want you to cry. Like it's a satisfaction that heals them more than you. No tears today. Just a promise to them that I'm okay. Got a call from Dr. Dean a week after treatment started. Onward and upward for you, my friend, he says. Onward and upward, I repeat. Onward and upward. Thank you.
Nicholas, that was riveting. Thank you. Thank you. I've never used that word before. So, February 2nd, 2025, I used the word riveting for my friend Nicholas. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out and being here. Thank you at home and in the future if you watch this later. And please support us when you can, if you can. We will be back March 2nd, and the theme is baby steps. So my writers here, home, wherever, let me know if you're interested. And that's it. Christopher, thank you. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Tom Stringer. Thank you, Jackie, Anthony, Gordon, Devora, Nicholas. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.